So the 2025 driver market is in full swing now. Carlos Sainz removing the cork from the bottle in the same way he removed James Vowles' butt plug to gently whisper in his ear that he'd be signing a contract with Williams after all. Yeah, enjoy that image. With the Spaniard's destination confirmed, a lot more pieces of the puzzle can now fall into place, as teams like Alpine and Sauber can confirm their lineups, claiming whoever they sign was the best pick for the job, even though we know for certain that's just not true. Whilst the vacant Alpine drive appears to be between Mick Schumacher, Jack Doohan and Nikita Mazepin for some reason, I've already made a video on who I think is a shoo-in for that seat, so you can enjoy that one before the vegetables at Formula 1 claim that for copyright too. The spot at Sauber, however, appears to be much more up in the air, with many at the start of the season expecting it to be the team that acquired the services of Sainz, but now they've got a lot of thinking to do. This is the team that come 2025 will only be a year away from their big transition into Audi, where the manufacturer will turn itself from its lowly backmarker position to immediate front-running challengers, by the power of magic or something. While their current lack of pace and identity crisis in the boardroom brings that into doubt right now, with the return of Mushroom Man and signings like Jonathan Wheatley making a sensational switch from Team Verstappen, the team now have the right people to theoretically make that step up. That said, we also said that about Aston Martin not too long ago, and look what happened there. Returning to the point at hand, and a whole load of drivers could realistically work their way into that seat for next year. So let's take a look at each one in turn, and as a bit of fun, rate their chances of securing that seat out of 10. Let me know your rankings down in the comments below. Where better to start then than with one of Sauber's incumbent drivers, one you Slow. And now let's quickly move on. Okay, so Slow is technically the highest placed Sauber driver in the championship right now, but for a guy in what is now his third season of Formula 1, he's impressed me about as much as a duck impresses me, as it walks its family into a motorway and gets punted like a football by an oncoming lorry. I do like the guy and think he could have a very successful career outside of Formula 1, or as the new Ronald McDonald, but no matter how much money they or the Chinese government appear to be throwing at the wall to keep him in that seat, it looks as if we'll be saying goodbye to the lad come the end of the year. Valtteri Bottas, on the other hand, is a bit of a different story. Both he and Slow haven't been aided by a particularly competent car this year, and the once flying Finn now has his arse exposed 21st in the 20-driver championship. Despite this, it's widely accepted that he's still the better driver in that team right now. But at this point, is he worth the salary they're paying him with younger and potentially better prospects out there on the table? If Sauber want a safe pair of hands and someone who'll make up an experienced lineup alongside Nico Hülkenberg, then this is your man. But since they have that experience locked in already, maybe it's time to start looking elsewhere. So what about the guy I originally tipped for the job back when I made my driver predictions video back in April? A video that, just by looking at the thumbnail, has already aged like shit. Back then, I went with Valtteri Bottas alongside Sauber junior driver Zane Maloney, which makes me sound like a complete window licker now, but back then, it might have made an ounce of sense. The boy from Barbados was coming off a dominant performance in the opening races of the Formula 2 season, making a clean sweep of Bahrain and looking like a serious title challenger for 2024. That title challenge has now stalled out like half the field do at the start of a Formula 2 race, and Maloney looks destined for a potential switch to the land of fat people, guns and porn-obsessed murderers for next season. His recent test in an IndyCar appeared to all but solidify his failure to make the cut in this one, so let's slap him with a 1 out of 10 and move on. A much more likely candidate from Sauber's junior pool could be that of 2023 Formula 2 champion Théo Pourchaire. The Frenchman has had quite the year in 2024, stepping late notice into a McLaren IndyCar, causing a war against all of Argentina, signing a 2-year deal before realising the papaya team think a year is 30 days, awkwardly coming back anyway when Rossi ripped his thumb off. This is Hollywood stuff, honestly. Not too long ago, I'd be handing Théo pretty high odds here, but now it appears that excitement has cooled somewhat. The Frenchman's IndyCar results, despite there being a lot of extenuating circumstances, don't make for great reading, and quite frankly, I'd much rather let my theoretical kids watch footage from the Boston Marathon than his failed attempt at Super Formula at the beginning of the year. Like Maloney, it seems a full-time switch to the States appears to be the most feasible option, but will rank him a little bit higher than his fellow Sauber junior. Now, up until about a week ago, we would have covered all the realistic prospects, but in the time since, a few more have emerged, some making perhaps less sense than others. The first of these is McLaren junior Gabriel Bortoleto. If you've never heard of him, he won last year's Formula 3 championship, has made a pretty decent early impression in Formula 2 this season, and wanks off to Ayrton Senna about 5 times a day. There's no doubt this boy has pace, but a step up this early, I'm just not sure whether this is the right move to make as far as he's concerned. Whilst Bortoleto sits P2 in the Formula 2 standings at the point I record this video, the likelihood he can overcome the lead of Red Bull prospect Isaac Hadjar isn't particularly high, That could set him up for another learning year in the series for 2025, at which point for me it would make a lot more sense to promote him into Formula 1. But Sauber wouldn't want to do that. From their point of view, they'd want to snag him away from McLaren before any possibility of a seat opens up over there. Not that I think that would happen, unless they feel the need to send Lando Norris back to the nursery at any stage next season. Audi would also want to enter the sport with as much consistency as possible, to ensure a smooth transition into the new rules and eliminate as many potential unknowns as they can. They're not the only ones with that mindset, with every driver signing this year being locked into a long-term deal, even Sergio Perez for some reason. Given 2025 appears to be a throwaway year for Sauber anyway, what's the harm in taking the Brazilian in now? And at the time of making this video, he appears to be the most likely candidate for the job as things stand. I could well end it here then, but if you take a look at the watch time, you'll realise we're nowhere near 8 minutes yet, so let's throw a couple more names into the hat. Sergio Perez, currently contracted to Red Bull until someone can scrape whatever incriminating evidence he has off his hard drive, may well end up in need of a seat come the end of the season. While the Mexican stock has fallen through the floor in recent times, his experience at a top team could prove invaluable to the likes of Audi. Whether Jonathan Wheatley will want to put up with his repair bill again is a different matter entirely though, so maybe this makes a little bit less sense at the end of the day. What about Liam Lawson then? If Red Bull are stuck in their ways of losing the Constructors' Championship, they could well find themselves unable to offer Lawson a contracted drive before he becomes a free agent in September. The Kiwi made a name for himself while subbing in for the disabled Ricciardo at the tail end of 2023, so a quote-unquote rookie with top team experience might be particularly enticing for the German manufacturer, even in the form of a Red Bull loan deal, which we saw in the past when they let Albon join Williams and conveniently forget about him the moment he actually remembered he had some pace. My final pick is perhaps slightly out of left field. Sebastian Vettel. No, actually he can't find his way out of his care home. How about good old Danny Rick then? I mean, did you really expect any less from me? Hear me out here though, Ricciardo could make a lot more sense than you might think. If the Honey Badger is no longer destined to drive alongside Max Verstappen at Red Bull, and the drinks brands still want to find room for Lawson at RB, why not loan or release the Aussie to someone like Sauber? The outfit would get a driver who, despite what you might read on Twitter, has gotten slightly better over the course of this season. I mean, he's not spinning on his own anymore. And on top of that, you'd be getting arguably one of the most marketable names in the sport, whilst reuniting Danny Rick with his old Renault suicide buddy, Nico Hülkenberg. The chances of that are slim at best, maybe even slimmer than FOM releasing their vice grip on my cock right now, but it's food for thought, evident by the massive hate already accumulating in the comment section down below. Who's getting this drive then? Well, let's be honest, the name I'm about to spit out will most certainly not get it if my history is anything to go by. So in that case, I'm actually going to say Bortoletto. He's certainly the loudest name in the paddock right now, and if my jinx comes to pass, then he'll likely end up doing another season in Formula 2, which honestly I think would do his future career a whole world of good. What do you think though? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please get subscribed as I'll be churning out more until this summer break is over and I can find some actual news to sink my teeth into. Now for those of you who aren't aware, it's been a pretty tumultuous few days for the channel, and FOM is slowly twisting a rod up my arse on the copyright versus fair use battle. I'd just like to take the time now to thank everyone for the support shown on social media over this, and in particular to some of the fellow content creators who've taken the time to get in touch. Honestly, I massively appreciate you all. I'll make a video on the situation once I know more for certain, but I've got a few potential avenues to keep the comedy review videos alive into the future. In the meantime, thanks to all the channel members and patrons for keeping my lights on, and I'll see you all very soon with another video. Until then, have a good one.